Hello, I'm Emma Martins from the Office of the Data Protection Authority here in the Bailiwick of Guernsey. I want to talk a little bit today about some of the challenges that we're all facing during this very difficult time, with many of us working remotely and from home and in ways that may be very unfamiliar to us. I also want to mention how our office is responding, both from an internal operational perspective, as well as in relation to the carrying out of our regulatory duties. Lastly, I want to try and encourage us not to neglect good data governance at this time and to continue the hard work in looking after the data that's in our care, even though circumstances do make that very difficult. So many of us now find ourselves working from kitchen tables or lounges or similar, and for a prolonged period of time, probably a situation none of us could have ever imagined, however good your disaster recovery planning was. And that means we're likely to be accessing information and data in very, very different ways. So just a few things to have a think about at this time. If you do have a data protection officer, DPO, make good use of them to support you, your organisation and your employees. Make sure your remote working policies and procedures are fit for purpose. If you're responsible for them, give them a check over. Do they do what you want them to do? Are they fit for purpose? If you need to change those policies and procedures because of the new ways of working, think carefully about how that may impact the data flows and governance issues for your organisation, and document the decisions and changes that you make. Make sure your staff use secure network connections and that all devices have up-to-date virus software and other security measures appropriate for your organisation. Take extra care when handling or transporting paperwork or devices that may contain personal data. And sadly, criminals are actively trying to exploit the current situation and disruption, so be extra vigilant, especially to things like social engineering, where someone tries to impersonate your staff, your suppliers, or your clients. Lastly, be realistic about the pressures on you and on your colleagues. It's probably fair to say that many of us will not be able to work with the same degree of accuracy or attention to detail, especially if you have little ones in the house or are trying to homeschool or have to care for family members as well. And of course, all these things apply as much to me and to my office as they do to you and yours. We've had to make significant changes to the way in which we work and understand how challenging things are. I know that data protection doesn't always have the best reputation, and some don't recognise the value it brings to them as individuals or to our community. But it's always been the case we've worked hard to regulate in a way that supports our community and our economy, because we are all a part of it. So we are very alive to the extraordinary pressures being faced by everyone at the moment. And we will carry out our duties in a sensible and pragmatic way, understanding that many organisations are facing unprecedented challenges and are experiencing a great deal of pressure, disruption and shifts in priorities. And I want to finish by encouraging us not to forget to look after the data that's in our care. Whatever your business, data is probably one of your most valuable non-consumable assets. We all want and need the economy to get through this and recover as quickly as it can. And this will involve ensuring that your business assets are well looked after during this time. Whilst this may be a time to assess certain priorities and approaches for your business, it's not a time to neglect compliance requirements. There's been a lot of talk about the trade-offs that will be required in the fight against this pandemic, and that privacy will need to be sacrificed in the name of public health. And of course, it's unsurprising that when we hear reminders of the importance of good data governance, conversations soon turn to, well, how can we possibly think about data protection at a time like this? My response is that it's precisely at a time like this that we need to focus on treating people with respect and dignity, because that's what's at the heart of data protection. It's not about some distant other. It's about you, your family, your friends, and your colleagues. I do not believe that effective response to emergencies like the one we're in need to sideline individuals' rights. Let's think about it in a different way to try and help illustrate the point. If you're responsible for the construction of a building that's really important, even vital for the community, whether it's a hospital or school or something like that, just because the building that you are putting up is really important, it doesn't mean that you ignore health and safety rules. You want and need that building to be strong and safe, the builders well protected and the users well protected. Equally, because what's happening now is of critical importance to us all, doesn't mean we ignore data governance rules. I want this community to continue to pull together, and I want government to do everything in its power to get us through this. If that means exploring innovative uses of technology, I believe that we can do that in a way that builds good data governance and handling practices into the systems in ways that we are knowledgeable of and comfortable with as citizens. Privacy, after all, is not about hiding something. It's about protecting something. Our data is increasingly us. The way in which our data, and by definition we, are treated is, I would argue, something worth protecting. Thank you and take care.